Hey nerds, Gleemax here. Today we're looking at the top 10 black and green or Golgari commanders. Black and green focus very heavily on graveyard shenanigans, coupled with efficient removal, ramp, and creatures. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you wish to see more. Let's begin. An honorable mention goes out to Iname as 1. For 8 black, green, you get an 8/8 legendary creature spirit. When Iname as 1 comes into play, if you played it from your hand, you may search your library for a spirit card and put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. When Iname as 1 dies, you may exile it. If you do, return target spirit permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love this card. I've built this deck. It's not good. Iname is a combination of Iname Death aspect and Iname Life aspect. The combo here is simple. Sacrifice Iname as 1 to put Death aspect into play, search out all the green and black spirits in your deck, put them into your graveyard, and reanimate them with a Living Death effect. In the year that I ran this deck, I got to Oops All Spirits once. As I said, it's not good, mainly because the Enter the Battlefield trigger requires that Iname as 1 was cast from your hand. It's a lower power deck with a huge finish, and you get to run a lot of Kamigawa cards. Iname as 1 is my honorable mention. At number 10 we have the Sapling of Colfenor, a 2/5 legendary treefolk shaman. Sapling of Colfenor is indestructible. Whenever Sapling of Colfenor attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to its toughness and lose life equal to its power, then put that card into your hand. Oh boy, baby got high toughness. Sapling of Colfenor is the high toughness commander of choice in black and green, and she offers a fantastic treefolk sub-theme as well. To start off, because she is indestructible, I recommend running an equipment package, Sword of Feast and Famine, World Slayer, Sword of the Amethyst. She's indestructible, so making her a large threat with equipment means she'll stick around to swing turn after turn. Also, World Slayer is hilarious. It destroys everything, including lands, and is one of your best finishers. Lorwyn Block brought a lot of treefolk tribal, and Sapling utilizes it very well. Bosk Banneret discounts all of your other tree bros by 1. Black Poplar Shaman gives you a repeatable regenerate effect for your other treefolk for 2 and a black, while Timber Protector gives all your treefolks and forests indestructible. Most treefolk have higher toughness to power ratios, so when your general attacks, you're more likely to gain life than lose life. To abuse this, we also run Tree of Perdition and Tree of Redemption, each gaining us 13 life when we flip them with our commander, and we can use them for powerful political shenanigans as well. Assault Formation is a key card in the deck. This allows your high toughness creatures to use their toughness instead of power when assigning combat damage. It can also make your defenders be able to attack as though they did not have defender. Our Chilling Treefolk becomes a respectable 3/3 after returning some lands back to our hand, while Sapling of Colfenor itself becomes essentially a 5/5. Sapling is a strong commander with a unique color combination for her tribe and deserves a number 10 spot on the list. At number 9 we have Ishkanah, Grafwidow. For 4 and a green, you get a 3/5 legendary creature spider with reach. It has Delirium, which means when Ishkanah enters the battlefield, if we have at least 4 or more permanent card types from among the cards in our graveyard, we get to create 3 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach. We can also pay 6 and a black, and target opponent loses 1 life for each spider we control. Alright, Spider Tribal. Quick shout out to Rhystic Studies video on Giant Spider. It's a work of art. Do yourself a favor and check it out. Link in the comments. Spiders typically have higher toughness and power and reach, a keyword monopolized by the creature type. Ishkanah was made so people can run spider spawning in the deck. In fact, spider spawning is one of your main combo pieces. We start by filling up the graveyard. Grizzly Salvage-like effects are Golgari's specialty and spawn a bunch of tokens. Ishkanah can then use its 7 mana ability to deal huge amounts of damage and win the game. Ishkanah also gets Grafwidow Pack, which can exile a creature to make a 1/2 spider token, and each opponent loses life based on how many spiders we have. For more token generation, there is Arasta of the Endless Web, a legendary enchantment creature spider that gives you a spider token whenever anyone casts an instant or sorcery spell. We also get to utilize cards like Second Harvest to double the amount of tokens we get from each of our effects. The other big token maker though is Arachnogenesis, which makes a 1/2 spider with reach for each creature attacking you and fogs all damage from non-spider creatures. We of course also run Doubling Season if you're able to afford it, as it doubles all the tokens that you generate. So does Parallel Lives, and both fit very nicely in the deck. Ishkanah is a very straightforward, very tribal focused build, and a lot of the deck feels as though you're trying to live the glory days of Innistrad Draft, and while the deck isn't exactly that, you can still try and do your best. Ishkanah is number 9. At number 8, we have Glissa the Traitor. Glissa the Traitor is a 3/3 zombie elf for black, green, green. She has First Strike and Death Touch. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Alright, first, wrong art. There we go. First Strike and Death Touch is a combination you only see on 3 other cards. I run Glissa as an Infect build. Yes, Infect. I know the ability is contentious, but we're putting that aside for now. The idea here is to use Glissa as the ultimate blocker. Anything that isn't indestructible swinging at you will die to the First Strike Death Touch combination. This lets you play out Infect creatures early and start swinging. For ramp we get Plague Mirror, which taps for 1 and also has Infect itself. Corpse Cur regrows another Infect creature when it enters the battlefield. As it's also an artifact, Glissa can get it back to our hand as well. Acre Claw Mirror pumps up to be a 3/3 whenever it's blocked. And I really like Putrefax, a green 5/3 ball lightning with Infect. This thing can easily finish off a player who isn't expecting the haste and power. You get Phyrexian Swarmlord as well. It's a decent body, but the ability to make 1/1s with Infect means untapping with this thing is game over for the table. Infect even gets a Lord, Hand of the Praetors, which pumps your entire team and gives out counters whenever you play one of your creatures. You also run a lot of simply bad creatures to flesh out the deck, like Phyrexian and Jester. But the top end is Skittles, the Blight Dragon, which is pretty good. Lastly, Proliferate. With cards like Evolution Sage and Contagion Clasp, these let you finish off already poisoned opponents who have stabilized on the board. Glissa Infect is fun, aggressive, but will draw a lot of hate. People do not like Infect in Commander. If you're okay with the mechanic that people perceive as powerful, but it really isn't, Glissa is for you. She's my number 8. At number 7, Mazarik Kraul Death Priest. Mazarik is a 2/2 flying insect shaman for 3 black green. Whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This is a fun build around ability, heavily rewarding a go wide aristocrat build. First, 1/+1/+1 counter is nice, but more is better. Corpse Jack Menace doubles all +1/+1 counters we place on our things, as does the enchantment Hardened Scales. With a very low converted mana cost of 1, setting this up early is not hard at all. Lastly, Winding Constrictor doesn't double the number of +1/+1 counters placed, but it does add 1 additional counter to whatever we would put on normally. Of course, Fleshbag Marauder and its variants are included, forcing 4 sacrifices and giving your entire board 4 +1/+1 counters with Mazarik out is a fantastic rate for 3 mana. I really like Woe Strider in this deck, giving us a sacrificial goat and letting us sacrifice anything at instant speed for the ability to scry 1. Run it alongside Viscera Seer for consistency. As you're sacrificing your own things, Blood Artist and Zilliport Cutthroat add a very short clock with their effects and conveniently carry all the +1/+1 counters Mazarik provides. I am also going to mention the land base here. You really want to run as many fetches as possible, in addition to Ranunap Excavator and Crucible of Worlds. Having the ability to fetch a land, get a Mazarik trigger of +1/+1 counters on your entire board, and bring the land back each turn is a very powerful line of play. Mazarik Kraul Death Priest Aristocrats is my number 7. At number 6, Varils, the Scar Striped. For 1 black-green, you get a 2/2 Troll Warrior with sacrifice another creature to regenerate Varils, the Scar Striped. Additionally, each creature in your graveyard has Scavenge. The Scavenge cost is equal to its mana cost. Scavenge means you exile a creature card from your graveyard and pay its mana cost. You then put a number of +1/+1 counters equal to that card's power onto target creature. You may scavenge only as a sorcery. Alright, Varils is a very unique mid-range Reanimator hybrid build. As a normal for Reanimator, we want to fill our graveyard up. However, we turn to creatures to accomplish this in Varils because the added value of a body, no matter how bad, to either carry or be used for +1/+1 counters is too good to pass up. Golgari Thug and Stinkweed Imp both have Dredge, replacing a card draw with a self-mill. Golgari Grave Troll is as well, having an impressive Dredge of 6. You rarely play them as creatures, but they carry counters as good as anything. For what we're putting in the yard, we focus on high power and low converted mana cost. Death Shadow is a 1 mana 13/13, the drawback being it's straight up dying when you're at or above 13 life. Playing this and having it die turn 1 is a good line of play. For 1 black with Varils out, we put 13 +1/+1 counters on a creature. The same can be said for Phyrexian Dreadnought, which can give 12 +1/+1 counters. Other great targets are Phyrexian Soul Gorger and Rotting Regisaur, a 7/6 for 3 mana. In fact, Regisaur pulls double duty, and his discard effect is beneficial for throwing things like Yargle in the bin. Lastly, pushing through damage is very important. Yes, you can make your Fintorn Elves a 13/13, but you need trample. For this, I like Brawn. So long as this elephant thing is in your graveyard, all your creatures have trample. You also get access to Crowned Ceratok and Tuskguard Captain, each giving all creatures you control with a +1/+1 counter trample. Lotleth Troll is fantastic too, allowing you to pitch a creature card for a +1/+1 counter as well as naturally having trample. Varils lends itself to a very mid-rangey beat 'em down style of deck, which makes my number 6 slot on the list. At number 5, we have Slimefoot, the Stowaway, a 2/3 fungus for 1 black-green. Whenever a sapling you control dies, Slimefoot the Stowaway deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. You can also pay 4 mana to create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Sapling tokens, everyone's favorite Pokemon. Saplings go way back, and Slimefoot is their premier commander. We start the game making tokens. Lots of tokens. Spore Swarm, Scatter the Seeds, Sapling Migration. These start gumming up the board early. Sprout Swarm is the best instant speed token generator. Its combination of Convoke and Buyback means you can potentially make tokens for free if you have enough made already. In addition to the typical Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat effects, we get our Commander as well as Poison Tip Archer to increase the amount of damage to our opponents whenever Sapling dies. Mycolith is probably the best card in the deck, coming down and devouring all of these saplings we have, triggering Slimefoot as many times. It then sits back and makes an army of saplings each upkeep. We dedicate a few slots to grow our saplings. Spore Crown Thalid and Fellow Knight Hermit give all of them +1/+1, and Tender Shoot Dryad gives them +2/+2 so long as we have at least 10 permanents. Remember to run a couple Overrun or Triumph of the Horde effects. If you're swinging with 10 saplings, they may as well be 3/3s with Infect. Lastly, if you really want to up the power level of the deck a large amount, Ashnod's Altar and Parallel Lives combo with Slimefoot for infinite damage to all of our opponents. In fact, all infinite mana combos are great with Slimefoot as he's an outlet for infinite damage. Slimefoot has options. He lets you play grindy or he lets you play combo heavy. He's a solid number 5. At number 4 we have Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. A 2/2 for black and green. She's a human cleric. Whenever Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, create a 1/1 green snake creature token with Death Touch. Magic's Cleopatra is an interesting build, focusing on -1/-1 counters to control the board. Firstly, we have to put counters on things, then benefit from doing so. Putting counters on things is actually not that hard. Devoted Druid puts counters on itself, allowing it to untap and tap for more mana. Chalert Innate comes with 3 -1/-1 counters and removes them as a cost to tap for mana. Grim Affliction puts a counter on any creature and then proliferates, netting us at least 2 snakes with Hepatra out. I really like Soul Snuffers in Hapatra. When it comes down, it puts a -1/-1 counter on everything. Black Sun Zenith does the same, acting as a board wipe and a snake token generator. But making snakes isn't the only benefit for debuffing everything. Nesting Scarabs makes insect tokens whenever you would get a snake from Hapatra, while Flourishing Defenses makes elf warriors. Obelisk Spider deals 1 damage to each opponent and gains us 1 life. Generous Patron lets you draw a card whenever a -1/-1 counter is placed on a creature we don't control. Its support ability also lets us remove -1/-1 counters from, say, Devoted Druid for additional usage. There's also Quill Spike that can remove counters from your things to get a massive +3/+3, and the effect is repeatable. Possibly the best payoff is Necroskitter, which reanimates any creature that dies with a -1/-1 counter on it. Hapatra is an interesting build, using pretty obscure cards and being a powerful mid-range / control deck. She is my number 4 on the list. At number 3, we have Nath of the Gilt-Leaf. Nath is a 4/4 elf warrior for 3 black/green. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may have target opponent discard a card at random. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Okay, Nath combines 2 seemingly unconnected themes and does so pretty well. We run the deck as green-black elves with a minor discard sub-theme. As we're in green, the standard elf staples and +1/+1 lords are auto-includes, from Dwynen Gilt-Leaf Dane, which gains us life, to Elvish Archdruid and Priest of Titania, which can tap for loads of mana, and even Azuri for its overrun effect and regeneration. For added token generation, I like Lizalon Huntmaster and Imperious Perfect. Both let you quickly build up a massive volume of elves. With Nath out, you'll quickly have a force capable of ending the game. Sadistic Hypnotist is an amazing card in this deck. Each time you sacrifice an elf token, you make 2 elf tokens. Looping this will quickly strip each card from all of your opponent's hands. For added discard, Cunning Lethomancer is a reliable source of hand destruction, as is Mind Slash, which can result in a similar loop to Sadistic Hypnotist. For added spice, I like Tiny Bones. This adorable little skeleton provides card draw and a 6 mana ability that can deal upwards of 30 damage split amongst your opponents. Nath is also good for cards like a Bad Deal with bad artwork, where you draw 2 cards and each opponent discards 2 cards, with each player losing 2 life, generating great card advantage. Nath is a tribal deck with a fun customizable sub-theme. Have fun with Nath. He's number 3. At number 2, we have Meren of Clan Toth. Meren is a 3/4 human shaman for 2 black/green. Whenever another creature you control dies, you gain 1 experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, it goes in your hand. Oh boy, this is a fun one. Meren is a reanimating powerhouse. The main downside to Meren, and really downside is overplaying it, is that you need to gain experience counters to reanimate bigger things. Remember, the player gets experience counters, so a Winding Constrictor here is a top pick. So we end up running a selection of creatures that sacrifice themselves for various effects. Spore Frog gives us a fog effect and is very cheap at 1 CMC. Steve gives us a rampant growth effect and is a prime reanimation target early game. Shriekmaw sacrifices itself with Evoke to destroy target non-black creature. The higher 5 mana converted mana cost makes it so you won't reanimate it early, but returning it to your hand for added evoke casts and experience counters is a solid play. We also need to fill up our graveyard. Nyx Weaver is good for continuous self-mill, and Dead Bridge Chant is fantastic as a one-off self-mill for 10, with a random reanimation being a huge bonus. Altar of Dementia, which can both serve as a sacrifice outlet and give Meren experience counters, and a self-mill card that will fizzle any removal thrown at you. For winning, there's everything from Gary and Kokusho to drain your opponents out, or Shieldred to grind opponents out in a way that is so black and green. Meren's number 2 due to her customizability. You can reanimate whatever you want. Yes, the shell is similar, but I love the variety of threats in the Meren deck. And at number 1 we have the Gitrog Monster, a 6/6 frog horror for 3 black-green. It has Death Touch, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play 1 additional land on each of your turns. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. Hypnotoad, a black-green lands deck filled with insane combo potential. Get Good Toad is a powerhouse. Because of the word anywhere, we are going to dump massive amounts of cards into our graveyard. Stack more salvage, the key combo piece of the deck. Simple really, as an enter the battlefield tapped land that can tap for black with Dredge 2. Dredge means whenever you would draw a card, be it from your draw step, from a Phyrexian Arena trigger, or from Gitrog, you instead mill 2 cards from the top of your deck into the graveyard and put this land into your hand. That's right, so long as you can continuously discard stack more salvage, you can mill your entire deck. This combo runs several discard outlets to facilitate the combo. Ayula's Influence makes us a 2/2 bear for each time we discard stack more salvage. Wild Mongrel gets +1/+1 for each loop of the combo, as does Noose Constrictor, and whatever you stick Oblivion Crowned on. The best is Scourge Familiar, which gives us 1 mana per loop. To truly go infinite with this combo, we need a way to recycle our graveyard into our deck. For this, we run Nature's Lore and the Eldrazi Titans, be it Kozilek or Ulamog. With these, we can shuffle our entire graveyard into our deck, infinitely drawing and discarding from our entire deck. From here, we can play Dark Ritual for an infinite amount of mana, or generate infinite mana with Scourge Familiar. How do you win with infinite mana, infinite 2/2 bears from Ayula's Influence, an infinitely big creature with protection from all 5 colors like Wild Mongrel? Why, Torment of Hailfire, of course. This is the most CEDA version of the deck. You can also build it without the combos for a more grindy build, or a landfall focused deck with Rampaging Balots, Retreat to Hagra, or Worm Harvest. Gitrog has a build for anyone, and is my absolute number 1 Golgari commander. Alright nerds, that's it for today. Who's your favorite Golgari commander? Let me know down in the comments. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter and tweet at me suggestions for the next video. I always appreciate when people send me ideas for future topics. Thanks nerds.